and welcome to my channel. Today is day 7 of my Crafters Companion Advent Calendar Mix, and behind today's door is a stamp and die set. So we get this, I think it's a maple leaf stamp and the coordinating die, as well as a pumpkin and its coordinating die. I'm going to start off by stamping a background, and I'm going to do a bit of an ombre here. So I've just pulled out some little mini ink cubes just from various brands that I have. So I've got this yellow that I'm going to start off at the top here, and then before I transition into the next color completely, I'm going to just ink mostly with the yellow, and then for what will be the bottom portion, transitioning into the next color, I'll ink that into my orange. And so I get a little bit of an ombre effect, so it doesn't go directly from one color into the next, but rather on a single stamped impression, you build up that ombre. And then now I'll go ahead and transition fully to my orange, and I'm making sure to stamp right off the edge. I'm also working on a scrap piece of card that's larger than my card front, so I know I'll be trimming this down. And again, with the orange, I'll do some of that same transitioning. So as I go into my final color, the red, I'm going to partially ink up that stamp in the red so that I get a little bit of transition as I move downwards on a single stamp. And I think that just makes things look a little bit more organic, like it's just naturally building up that ombre. And so now I'll just complete this bottom section with the red. So you can see I have ink cubes from all sorts of brands. I generally don't buy a lot of ink cubes, so most of what I have actually accumulated from craft boxes. So the yellow was from a Paper Craft Society box, the red as well. The orange, which I think is Marmalade, that one I think I did buy, and I have actually developed quite a little bit of a stash of Nuvo mini hybrid ink cubes, which I really like. So both the Nuvo ink cubes and the Papercraft Society ink cubes, I think they're both hybrid. I know for certain the Nuvo ones are hybrid. I presume, because I heard once from an unboxing that Sam Calcott did, that the Papercraft Society ink cubes are also hybrid. Those are my favorites so far. They stamp really well. They're very juicy ink pads, and I just always am really happy with how those ink up, how they stamp, and you'll always get a really nice crisp image. So those have been my go-tos. So I am going to be making a US A2 size card. So this is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 folded, and I am going to matte my panel with some black. And when I do double mattes like this, where some of my card base is still showing, I actually don't like for the borders to be the same size. I don't know why that is, but for the most part, I prefer to leave a thinner white border, and then my next matte layer usually is a colored cardstock. So I prefer for that border, the colored border, to be wider than my white. And that's just personal preference. And a lot of times I'll have to take my piece to my guillotine, because my guillotine does actually have 1/16 of an inch measurement tick marks, whereas my We Are Memory Keepers all-in-one tool does not. I sometimes will eyeball that 1/16 of an inch, but when I want to get really precise trimmings, then I'll take it to my trimmer. So So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just figuring out how much of this to chop down. And since I started with such a large panel, I end up having to cut off more of this than I thought. So I don't have quite an even ombre. So as you can see, I had to trim off the top and the bottom. So I was trimming mostly the yellow and the red, as opposed, and the orange section stayed intact since it was in the middle of my panel. But I think in the end, it still worked out well, and I could have adjusted my black mat to be a little bit larger if I wanted to, but I thought I would just work with it. And so for this one anyhow, I did end up going with a smaller or a thinner margin on my black mat just so that I can preserve more of my stamped panel. But with the pumpkin here, I've already stamped it out. Now I'm using the coordinating die, which I love that they included. So, you know, I am not really good at fussy cutting, and I don't really enjoy it either. So whenever I can get a coordinating die, I am super happy. And so I've just used the same die to cut twice. That way I can have a shadow layer so that my pumpkin actually pops off of the page a little bit more, and then it has its own little backing plate and border as well. So I find that I find myself using black more and more just because as a matte layer or even as a card front and coloring onto black, it's just very striking and dramatic, I feel. And when you have a lot of colorful things going on, I think having that touch of black also makes it pop a little bit more. And for that reason, I'm actually not even going to color in the pumpkin because I think the contrast of leaving that black and white against the ombre background that we stamped out makes it stand out more than if I were to color this in. At least that's my speculation anyhow. So I was planning originally on coloring it in, but then when I saw it black and white, really liked how it looked. So I'm gonna leave it as just a stamped outline. And I'm trying to use up all of these foam dots, and so I'm being super generous with them. They are a little bit older since they're from older craft kits, and so I just don't know how strong the adhesive is. I prefer to use that all up quickly before using some of my newer foam. And now that I've got my sentiment, which I just used my Dymo label to punch out, I'm gonna add a few black Nuvo drops here and there just to again bring a little bit of that black into the center of our card. I think it just makes everything pop a little bit. It's one of the rare times that I actually go direct to paper. Usually I like to pre-make my Nuvo drops, let them dry, and then move them around my card. But here I thought I could manage going direct to paper, and I think I like how it turned out. I hope that you like this card as well, so come back tomorrow and see what's behind door number 8. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!